The number of people claiming asylum in Canada has risen steadily over the past few years. But between 2022 and now, it has skyrocketed. And 90% of those claims are being made in just 2 provinces, both of which are now struggling and asking the federal government for help.
They're bringing these people in, and God bless them, but they aren't funding it.
The problem is urgent.
Now, there's no doubt that some of this spike is related to just how many people are living in dangerous situations around the world right now. But what else explains this sudden rise? According to UN data, a few years ago, Canada cracked the top 10 countries receiving asylum claims. But last year, this country shot up to number 5. And in 2024, if the current trajectory continues, Canada could reach the top 3.
We have watered down the screening so significantly on our immigration program.
3 million people, over 7% of our population, are temporary residents. That is unprecedented.
How the government didn't anticipate this is quite troubling.
If you're fleeing persecution or violence in your home country and you're looking to claim refugee status somewhere safer, you have a couple of options. 1, you can apply as part of a resettlement program. These programs exist across North America and Europe. They generally accept refugees from war-torn areas, and they essentially handpick a certain number of people to resettle in their country. Another option for someone fleeing violence is to just physically go to another country and file an asylum claim once you're on that country's soil. Canada has welcomed hundreds of thousands of people through the first stream, its resettlement program, which this year has been heavily focused on Ukraine. But it's usually pretty insulated from that second kind of uncontrolled migration, mostly because of our geography. Canada is surrounded by ocean on 3 sides and really far away from most other countries.
You don't have the same issues like with the UK and the Channel and people coming in through Europe that way. You don't have the issue with people coming in through Mexico and all of South and Central America coming into the United States. You just don't have that. We're just protected geographically.
Before last year, about half of asylum claims filed in Canada came from Canada's only neighbor, the US. The vast majority crossing over by foot in Quebec. But the government closed that Roxham Road crossing in early 2023. Now, less than 10% of Canada's asylum seekers are coming over the US border. And yet, like we said, asylum claims have skyrocketed since then. So where are these tens of thousands of new claims coming from? Well, according to the analysts we spoke to, around the same time the Canadian government signed that agreement with the US, they also made it significantly easier for people to get here by air, asylum seekers being among those people.
When they got the opportunity to step on Canadian soil, they said, this is my chance. I'm going to make an asylum seeking claim and try and stay in Canada over the long term.
Here's what happened. Traditionally, if you wanted to travel to Canada from one of the countries on this list, there are 140 of them, you couldn't just book a flight and expect to pass through customs. You needed a visitor visa and to prove that you had plans to return home. The reason this list exists, according to the analysts we spoke to, is that these countries are considered higher risk for asylum claims.
We want to make sure that officers are convinced that an applicant has enough establishment in their home country and there's a clear purpose of why they're coming to Canada. They're not going to overstay.
Before 2023, if you were from one of these countries, you had to show a return ticket, you had to show where you were staying, and you had to prove that you had the money to support yourself while you were visiting. But then, at the beginning of 2023, the Canadian government quietly decided to waive those screening requirements for the rest of the year. The reason, they said, was to help reduce a massive backlog of over 2 million visitor applications in the system.
Because they were facing such large backlogs, the government came up with an internal policy of waiving the eligibility assessment.
So they were less stringent about reviewing some of these applications to come here on temporary visas because they just wanted to get through the backlog.
And according to an internal memo that the Globe and Mail got a hold of around the time of the decision, the government knew that this might have consequences, writing that not all applicants would be genuine visitors, and that the department might expect an extra 8,600 asylum claims as a result. In real numbers, Canada saw more than 24,000 additional asylum claims from people landing at airports in 2023.
When they're not vetted, if anyone who's been in the industry a while knows that, if you do that, then there are people that are more economic migrants.
Economic migrants, meaning people who are looking to come to Canada to build a better life, as opposed to, say, fleeing a war. And the analysts we spoke to say that could be why the makeup of Canada's asylum claims look so different from the rest of the world. Why so many claimants are coming from places like Mexico or India, as opposed to Ukraine or South Sudan. Now, these visitor screening measures came back at the beginning of this year. It was always meant to be a temporary change, but the government made some tweaks, tried to automate some of that screening process. And according to the analysts we spoke to, there are concerns it's not nearly as thorough as it used to be.
If an application is determined to be based on the algorithms that IRCC developed, a low-risk application, then it's going to be approved 99% of the time without an officer really going in and looking at those documents.
And just look at the number of people who claimed asylum at airports in the first 8 months of this year. They haven't leveled off. In fact, 2024 is on track to exceed last year's numbers. But people arriving by air is just one part of this equation. Asylum claims are also increasingly coming from people who are already here. In the past 6 months or so, Canada has seen a significant uptick of asylum claims coming from one unexpected group: international students. And I say unexpected because in order to become an international student in Canada, you need to prove that you're financially pretty well off. And yet, in just the first half of 2024, there were almost 13,000 asylum claims from this group. That's almost triple what we saw in all of 2022. And it's something that the immigration minister told Global News that he sees as an alarming new trend.
It's frankly quite alarming, given the volumes of people that come to this country, in theory, with the proper financial capacity to live and to pay their tuition fees, which are 4 times what Canadians pay. But it's becoming an alarming trend.
According to the analysts we spoke to, part of the issue here is that most of these students may not have come with the intention to study and leave, that they intended to stay all along. In fact, for many years, the government's own slogan for the international student program was study, explore, work, stay. But the second half of that slogan has gotten harder and harder to achieve.
People say, well, they weren't guaranteed PR status. No, of course they weren't guaranteed. But there was clearly, they were sold an expectation. We're sold an expectation that if you come here and study here, we want you as new immigrants. And now when you change the rules of the game and move the goalposts, I think, it's not fair.
This trajectory of study, explore, work, stay was relatively realistic just a few years ago. You come to Canada to study for a few years, get some Canadian work experience through a temporary work permit, use that to polish off your resume, and then apply for permanent residency. And chances were good that you'd be approved. But today, there are too many applicants and not enough spots.
There's been a huge increase in the number of international students. The numbers are quite staggering, frankly. I mean, they've nearly quadrupled in the last 9 years. We know there are over 1 million people here in Canada on a study permit last year.
That's over 1 million people on study permits, with only about 485,000 permanent resident spots.
As early as 2022, we were, as an immigration bar, talking about the numbers are not matching up. The total number of economic class immigrants that Canada wants to take each year was not corresponding to the number of students that were being taken in each year.
And not only were the numbers already working against these students hoping for permanent residency, a few months ago, the government made it harder for many of them to get work permits after they finished studying, which was an attempt, they say, to deal with skyrocketing youth unemployment.
Mark and I and our government want those jobs to go to Canadians.
College graduates, as a general rule, will no longer be eligible for the postgraduate work permits. That's a huge change.
We're talking about tens of thousands of fewer students eligible for a work certificate that could be their golden ticket to permanent residency.
So if many of these students are no longer eligible to get a work permit or an extension of their permit, and their chance of getting permanent residency is slim, the only other option, if they want to stay here legally, is to file an asylum claim.
The reality is what's happening now, as we speak, is that every day now, thousands of people's visas are expiring, and they're becoming what are called visa overstayers, undocumented.
There's some pressure, at least on some applicants, that just buying themselves more time or trying to make a last-ditch effort. And some applicants are turning to refugee claims to be able to try and do that.
According to international law, Canada is required to process any asylum claim made by anyone on Canadian soil, regardless of how they got here. They don't have to accept that claim, mind you, but they have to grant that person a hearing in front of a judge. But with such a massive backlog, it's taking years to get to that stage.
Unfortunately, I'm seeing clients of mine who are desperate to stay. They continue to get poor advice by non-lawyers who just say, oh, make a refugee claim. And when you make a refugee claim, you get a work permit and you get interim federal health.
And there's a concern that what we're seeing now is just the start of a trend. It's estimated that up to 175,000 foreign students will see their visas expire in the next year. And many temporary foreign workers are in a similar boat.
People can criticize them and say flippant things like, when your visa expires, why don't you just go home? No, not that simple. People have uprooted their lives, have made big investments to come to Canada. Families have invested in children to come and build this new life. Not that simple. You can't just turn around when the rules change.
Last month, the federal immigration minister told CBC News that it needs to do a, quote, stronger job of ensuring that people applying for visitor visas are in fact seeking to visit and not to file an asylum claim. They are also trying to figure out an interim plan to relieve pressure on Ontario and Quebec and to figure out a way to support all of these asylum seekers while they wait for their verdict. They hope to present some kind of announcement in the coming weeks.